And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a brand new game, one that's just now going to be coming out from Kickstarter. We're going to take a look at Ground Floor. It's on its way to the United States to be distributed to all the Kickstarter backers. This is a game by Tasty Minstrel Games, designed by David Short, and is a 2 to 6 player Euro game in which players are going to be managing time, which is really just another word for worker placement, in order to try and earn money and earn information in order to build floors of a building. And the person who best earns that money and information and builds floors and adds adjustments to their floors and changes buildings and rooms is going to be the winner. So real quick, we'll take a look at this 2 to 6 player game and see how it plays, and then we'll come back here and we'll get my final opinions on it. Here are the components you get with Ground Floor. Now we have a main board here with a lot of different pieces. You have floors for your buildings, rooms that you can build in your buildings, a player board for each player with little discs that are going to represent time, and a guide that represents how much time they're going to get. You have money, which are little chits that look like this, just little money chits, as well as information, which look like little folders, which are going to be the currencies you get in the game. Every player will have a player sheet that tells them what all of the different floors and rooms do, and just generally a whole bunch of different chits. And we're going to cover these individually so that you can see what's going on here. Here you can see a player's individual player board, which is going to show you their ground floor, as well as the building that they're building, and how many workers and how much money they're going to earn during the game. It's also going to show you an outline of what the stages of the game are, what the potential changes are during boom, stable, recession, or depression turns, and other various actions you can do. But basically what you're looking at here is this track over here, which shows you that when you have one worker, you're going to get 4 time tokens, which are actually going to be the pieces you place out on the board to take actions. In addition, with one worker, your income is going to be 9 money. And you'll see as you get more workers, you'll get more time, but you'll get less money to the point where you're actually going to pay money. In addition, you'll see the ground floor of your building, and every player starts with a specialty. This player starts with the retail specialty, and these are randomized, which means that they get this special storage area of their building. So you can see each of these buildings is going to have 6 different spots. We have assembly, which is going to let you use workers to get raw goods. You have training, which will let you train your new employees, because when you get a new employee, they start off as untrained, and you can use that room to train your employee, which means you'll get the time tokens for them on the next turn. You have the meeting room, which will let you use one of your time to get some information. The storage closet, which lets you hold goods. And the basic one only lets you hold 1, but the advanced will let you hold 2, so you can hold more goods. You have research and testing, which will let you use a time and 1 resource to get more information. And then you have advertising, which will let you advance your popularity in the game. But basically, you'll be able to build new buildings on here, be they the improved versions of these, which are just slightly better of all the individual ones, or what are called tenant improvements, which will replace these different actions with different actions, which may have different benefits or better benefits. Here you can see at the top of the main board 3 different tracks that you're going to be using to keep track of how the game is progressing. At the top you have the rounds track, and the game will have 9 rounds in it if it makes it that far, but there is another ending condition. In addition, you're going to see the job market, which will show you how much it costs to hire an employee at the beginning of each round. It starts at 5 money and 5 information, but as people buy them, it will go up, and dependent on what the current economic status is at the end of the rounds, it could go back down, and it will go back down usually. At the bottom, you can see the popularity track, which is going to be important for turn order. Whoever's the most popular will be the first in turn order, but will have various other effects throughout the game, such as the ability to sell your product. The more popular you are, the better you'll be able to sell your product. At the beginning of each round, you're going to do several things, and the first thing you're going to do is receive income. I've showed you on your player board that you're going to get income based on how many employees you have, and you may actually have to pay when you get to the get income phase. After that, you'll be able to hire employees, and in popularity order, you're going to be able to hire employees based on what the current cost is. So 5 and 5 at the beginning of the game, and you'll start with some money and information. And if you buy that, the price will go up. It stays 5 and 5, but shifts towards 6 and 6 and 7 and 7. And you'll go around the table each round, offering this option to players until everybody decides to pass that they don't want to buy any more employees. After you've done that, you're going to move on to the schedule business phase, which is placing your time out on the board in order to do actions. Here you can see all of the action placement spots in Ground Floor, and you're going to be able to place on any of these on your turn, and you're going to do this in popularity order. So, dependent on where your token is on popularity, the further to the right you are, the earlier you're going to go, and then it goes top down if there's ties. So, when you get around to it, you'll be able to place on these areas, and how you place and what you place is going to depend on what you're trying to do. You can see here at the consulting firm, you can place here and it costs you money to do so, and on the first turn you place here, it does nothing. So if you were to place a time token here, it does absolutely nothing for you except for cost you money. But when you resolve all of the actions, so you're going to place and then resolve, you're going to shift it to the right. And what this does is on the next turn, if someone places next to you, you will earn information. But it's unlikely that you're going to get placed next to early in the game because people will have information to start with. But eventually people will be forced to pay to get into these early spots in order to shift over to the information. Because you're only going to be able to place into the first spot, and it's less and less likely that someone will place next to you as you move further down the sheet. So initially you can place there for money. The next spot, the advertising agency, is going to cost you 1 money and 1 information to place on. And you're going to be able to put one of your tokens into these areas. So you would place a time token in here, and then later, after all of the time tokens have been placed, you're going to resolve them. When you resolve them, you have a choice of putting these into networking, print, or broadcasting, and all of these are going to increase your popularity. When you place into these, you're going to have the option of placing into network, which would allow you to add an extra time token from your supply into that, and you get 2 time tokens in here. Instead, you could move your time token to print, which costs you an extra money and an extra information, but simply allows you to put your 1 token here. Broadcasting costs 2 money and 2 information. And the reason these have varying costs is because some of them are better than others. Broadcast is better than print, is better than networking. When you resolve these areas, if you have 3 tokens in networking, you're going to get +1 popularity. In addition, anybody who has the most tokens is going to go up 1 extra. So in this case, if green had 2 here, they wouldn't get the bonus popularity for having 3 tokens, but they would move up 1 in popularity for having the most. And any tokens that contribute towards moving up will be removed. In print, it only takes 2 tokens to move up 1 popularity, so you don't need all 3. And in broadcast, it only takes 1. Again, whoever has the most getting an extra popularity bonus. After that, you're going to go to bonus marketing. You can't actually place in bonus marketing, but when you get to resolving this, you're going to go ahead and see who has the most popularity, and they get to choose a bonus. Now, you don't use this in 2-player games, and this does not happen during worker placement, so we're going to skip this for now and come back to it in a little bit. The third worker placement spot you can place in is the warehouse, and this is how you buy more goods. Now, there are other ways to get goods aside from buying them, but you can place here and pay either 2 money or 1 information to get this first good. The next one is 3 or 2, 4 or 3, and then 5 or 4. And you can buy these, and once they're all gone, they're gone. But they will replenish at the end of the turn, somewhat. The factory here is going to let you use these goods that you buy. And for 2 money or 2 information, or 2 money and 2 information, plus a good from your board that you have to be able to store, you're going to be able to place on this spot. And when you place here, you're going to be later using this factory action to produce a good that you can sell in the retail outlet. So you'll place then and then resolve later. We're going to move past the retail outlet and come back to it, and then we're going to move on to the construction company, which is really the main goal of the game here, is to be able to build using this construction company. It's going to cost you 4 money and 4 information just to place over here. You'll see the number of spots that are available depend on how many players are in the game. When you've placed here, it costs you that 4 money and 4 information, and when you resolve it, you're going to be able to build what are called either tenant improvements or new floors to your building. A tenant improvement only costs you 1 money and 1 information. And these can be built either on your ground floor, which is on your sheet that I showed you earlier, on your main player board. It can cover up any of those pre-built buildings that you have, or you can put them onto an empty floor, which you'd have to build and you don't start with. But it looks like this, and you'll see it has 2 spots for tenant improvements on it. These, as I said, cost 1 more money and 1 information. So after your 4 and 4 that you've placed, and for placing, it's going to cost you a little bit more to build them. But they're going to give you different benefits. So for example, the network admin here gives you +2 information income every turn when you get around to it. So that's kind of nice because information is hard to get. But other ones may provide you with a hiring discount. So for example, this one decreases the hiring all of your employees by 2 and 2. Or some of them give you an extra worker each turn, extra time, sorry, not an extra worker. So those are kind of cheap to build, but floors cost quite a bit. So you'll see here it says it costs you 2 money and 2 information, plus 2 money and 2 information per existing floor, including your ground floor. So your first one's going to cost you 4 money and 4 more information after what it costs you to place. But these are the real goal because they provide you victory points and further you towards the end of the game and give you more benefits. So you'll see this gives you 3 victory points in the top right-hand corner, and the floors are going to give you 2 victory points, which is listed in this spot right here. As the game goes on, you're going to get better and better floors, better and better improvements in order to do things. Now, back to these resolving. So we resolve all these other things. You resolve left to right, so you'll get your information before you go to your popularity, before you go to getting your bonuses. And when you get to the bonuses, whoever's the most popular gets to choose either a remodel, which is building a new room for 1 and 1, or a new supply, 2 monies, 2 info, or a temporary worker for the next turn. Then you're going to resolve your warehouse, getting your goods. Now, after we've done the warehouse, we're going to move to the factory. And let's say that these have been placed like this. All right, 1, 2, and 3. Our 3 players have placed things onto the factory. Now they're going to make goods. At this point, green will have the first choice of shifting their good over to one of the different spots in the retail outlet. There are 3 different tiers, 4 if you count liquidation. So green could say, I don't think anything's going to sell. I'm going to sell this for $3 immediately, and they just take their $3. Or they can set the price, and these are the 3 different tiers. $6 and $8 are in the lowest tier, $10 and $12 are in the middle tier, and $16 is the highest tier. And 1 disc can go in each spot. Now, maybe green is the most popular, and they're going to look at what the current economic forecast is, and they are going to see how many goods are likely to sell. So you can see here, for a 3-player game, there are going to be between 2 and 4 consumers in a stable economy. So knowing that the economy is stable, they'll say 2 and 4. My odds are pretty good that there's going to be at least 3. Maybe they're the most popular, and they just gamble that all 3 are going to sell, so they go straight for $16, and they set the price. Yellow maybe is the least popular, so they think only 2 are going to sell, but they think 2 will sell, so they're going to place here at the $10 spot. That should guarantee their sale if green doesn't get a sale because they're at the highest tier, and the highest tier will sell last. Blue, being the middle popularity, isn't so worried. They know they're going to sell probably... Well, they should sell at least their good, especially if they place in the same tier as yellow. So they place on the $12, knowing that if they sell, they should sell better than yellow. At this point, we would look at the economic forecast. We would flip it over, and we'd see how many consumers there are. So it's a 3-player game. We can see here that it says there are 2 consumers. Green is in trouble because their good isn't going to sell, because we sell from the bottom up and then in popularity order. So in the first tier, there's nothing to sell. We move on to the second tier. And in the second tier, blue is more popular than yellow. So even though yellow's good is cheaper, blues will sell first. And they sell for $12. So blue would take their $12. And then we would look at the next most popular in that tier, which is going to be yellow. They're the only one left. And their good would sell for $10. At this point, green's good does not sell. And it has to shift down at least 1 tier in value. So they're going to shift it down. And they can choose 10 or 12. Or they could jump all the way down to 8 or 6, or they could decide to liquidate it for $3. But they'd probably just shift it down to 12, being the most popular. After that, we would resolve the construction company, like I showed you, and then we would move on to what's called the reorganizing period of our game. At that point, you have the choice of firing any workers that you've had. Maybe you need to get more money. You can then reset all of the time markers for everything. Everybody's going to take their time markers based on how many employees they have. You can then update the board. You're going to replenish one of these. If these have been bought, you'll replenish the most expensive one. You will adjust the round marker. You will shift pieces over on the board, and you will prepare for the next round. Now, if you've gone on to step 4, you're going to add new floors to the board, and you're going to add new improvements to the board. And these will simply replace the floors or add to the floors that are already available, give you more action options. A lot of them are better actions or improve your income or give you ways to place things onto the board without using the actions that are already there, and are often cheaper or different alternatives, ways to make things happen that you can't normally do. Now, I want to make it very clear that actions that you place out here are delayed, but actions that you place on your player board happen immediately. So if you need to train a worker because you've hired a worker, you can do that immediately. You just won't get that time until the next round. And there are always ways to place on your own board in order to generate more information, in order to train your employees or get more goods, and those can be done immediately so that you can do other things out here. The game will end after somebody builds their 5th floor, which you'll go through the rest of that round, or after the 9th round of the game if no one has succeeded in building 5 floors. At that point, whoever has the most victory points by building different floors, building different improvements, is going to be the winner of the game. Now, to be very clear, there are also other types of economic forecasts. We have recessions in which there's going to be a little bit less in terms of people that are buying, and also these cards are going to show you how many jobs are lost at the end of each round. So you'll see here, in a 3-player game in a recession, the job, or the unemployment is 2, which means we'd shift the tracker for unemployment back 2, and there'd be cheaper jobs available. You'd be able to hire employees for cheaper. So you have stable, recession, some booms, which there's going to be more jobs and more consumers, and then there are also depressions, which is going to be very few consumers, and the jobs are going to be lost a lot, so you'll be able to hire cheaper employees. So you're going to randomize this deck in the game, and it's going to change how the game plays each time. Well, there you have it. That is Ground Floor by Tasty Minstrel Games. A pretty good game, one that I enjoy quite a bit, but I do have some downsides to it and some upsides to it. So I'm going to start with the downsides. The downsides of Ground Floor, at least for some players, not for me, but the downsides are going to be, 1, it's kind of a long game. Now, the box says 90 to 120 minutes, so you're looking at that 2-hour window there, but the first couple plays are going to take you longer than that. The reasons for this is that the game is, as I said, heavy. It takes some time to figure out how to get information. There's a few ways to do it, but you're going to be short on information at the beginning of the game, and picking it up is going to take a little bit of time, and learning how to do that and how to develop that into doing other things is going to be difficult. On top of this, there's a lot to do. There's several different places you can place, and trying to figure out how to best work those together takes a little bit of analysis, and that's going to lead to some analysis paralysis for people who are prone to that. Now, on the pro side, this is a great game in terms of developing a long-term strategy and a long-term plan over several plays. So if you're into a game that you can play several times and try and develop different strategies, different ways to make the game work, I think Ground Floor is really going to be something that appeals to you. It certainly does to me. I'm glad to have a copy. I'm going to keep it in my collection. I'm going to play it more and hopefully figure out different ways to approach earning victory points in a way that's not necessarily as straightforward as just building more floors, but also adding those improvements and doing it as fast as possible to get to the end of the game before other players. It is a race game, so you are trying to finish before everyone else, or I guess make the game go to the last turn. But overall, I think there's a lot of different strategies you can access here, a lot of different ways to earn points, and a lot of different ways you can go about getting information and money in order to accomplish your final goal. So if all of that sounds interesting to you, check out Ground Floor from Tasty Minstrel Games.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.